everyone. I'm hitting record.
Wow, awesome. Maybe it'll be a forgiving evening. All right, let me get to the script. Okay. So just for record purposes, Hillary is out this evening and along with Lydia. So I will be chairing the meeting this evening and we'll proceed as such, hoping for a very forgiving audience if I misstep. All right. As vice chair of this meeting, I need to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mary Branley?
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota?
Yes.
Okay. Natasha Rivera? Yes. Lydia Clancy and Hillary Griffith are absent, and as is a student rep, Annie, and I'm gonna not pronounce his last name correctly. Kaniz, can somebody help me here? Is it?
I'm not sure how to pronounce it either.
Okay.
Kaniska, maybe?
Yes, yes. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Colleen Andrade?
Here.
Jeff Fronte?
Here.
Okay. Chuck Karajanis?
Here.
Brian Haas?
Here.
Wayne White?
Here.
And I know we have some other staff here. Janet Lammy?
She's muted. Colleen, can you unmute her?
Sorry, I thought she was just here just to watch like other staff.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Maybe
I didn't know who was going to be participating in any discussions. James, also James Trudeau, you're going to be part of the agenda. Yes. Oh, she's muted. I mean, he's muted as well. Oh,
Yes, I'm here.
okay.
Thank you.
And Charles Gabron. Hey, Charles. All right. Okay.
Here.
Let's see. Wonderful. Hey, Charles. Nice to see you. This open meeting of the Maynard School Committee is being conducted remotely as by the act Governor Baker signed into law June 16, 2021, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, includes an extension until April 1st, 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of this March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. I am not going to go into all the provisions of the open meeting law because they have not changed since our last meeting. This meeting is being convened via Zoom conference as posted on the district's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating via video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording, which is audible to and viewable by the public. Additionally, please let me, the vice chair, know if you are recording or broadcasting this meeting. Prior to doing so, use the raise hand function now if you're planning to record or broadcast this meeting. No, nothing there, correct? All right. Meeting materials. Most of the meeting materials have been provided to members of this body and are available on the Maynard Public School website in the folder entitled 2021-2022 Agenda under the tabs Agenda under the School Committee tab. The public is encouraged to follow along using the agenda and documents unless the vice chair notes otherwise. Citizens' comments. Any citizen wishing to make a comment to be read during virtual meeting and entered into the public record may do so by emailing comments to comments@maynard.k12.ma.us. Again, that's comments@maynard.k12.ma.us. Instructions on how to do that are also included with the agenda. That's correct, Colleen, right? Yeah, okay. Meeting ground rules. Before we go into the first agenda item, permit me to cover some ground rules for the effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the vice chair, will introduce each speaker. After each speaker concludes their remarks, I will ask each member if they have a comment, question, or motion that they would like to make. I will go through members for additional comments or questions if time allows. Please hold off speaking until your name is called, and remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate meeting minutes. Do not interrupt anyone who is speaking, and cease speaking if the vice chair requests you to do so. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call vote. And we are now going to go ahead and proceed and open the meeting via roll call vote. Mary Branley,
Here.
Elizabeth Albota,
Here.
Tasha Rivera. Yes, okay, great. Going into the first item on the agenda. Oh, darn, I just closed that. Citizen comments. Okay, we do have 2 citizens comments that were submitted after during or after our last meeting that did not get read. So I believe Colleen will be entering these into the meeting minutes from last meeting, but I wanted to read them aloud. This first one is from Jessica Clark on Crane Avenue. As a literacy advocate, I am beyond excited to see in the proposed budget, we are committed to investing in literacy. With that being said, I would love to hear some clarification this evening on what the $50,000 literacy program, $50,000 literacy program in the proposed budget will cover. Is it for a particular program or curriculum, an outside consultant, professional development and training? How was the literacy problem identified and the solution arrived at? What stakeholders and community members were involved in the literacy review? Who is on the literacy review committee? What other districts did we consult with to explore best practices and solutions? Thank you for all you do for the children and community. I look forward to hearing clarification on these items. Thank you, Jessica. The next comment is from Liz Marcotte, and she is on Lincoln Street. Dear School Committee, after watching the MCAS presentation, I was disappointed that the leadership team spent time explaining away the scores based on external factors, rather than owning the fact that we as a district could do much better. I urge you in your research for a new assistant superintendent to select a person who pushes the district's leadership to provide concrete steps to improve students' skills in literacy and math, and to increase the number of students who meet expectations on all MCAS exams. We should not be satisfied that our scores are similar to the state expectation. That is not a valid comparison, nor something to be proud of when we have many district resources available to teachers and students. One slide contained a table that showed about 85% of students in grades 3 through 5 passing the MCAS exams. A passing score does not equate with meeting expectations. We should not be so misleading in the definition of passing when the majority of our students only partially meet expectations. It is not a dream of any parent that a student only partially meets the grade level expectations of reading, writing, and mathematics. Let's set an actual plan to raise these scores now. Secondly, I was disappointed that there was no critical questions about the MCAS data in terms of Tier 1 general classroom instruction when our non-high need students did not score particularly well across the board. Based on this data and the pre-COVID-19 2019 data, what are teachers doing specifically to increase students' achievement levels? I write to you not only to express my concerns, but also with the hope of providing a sense of urgency to the work that I did not feel from anyone while watching the presentation and listening to the discussion afterward. As a parent of 3 students in the district and as an educator who has led MCAS data analysis, I think we, the parents, the district leadership team, and the school committee can commit to doing better for our students. Thank you for your time. Liz, thank you very much for your comments. Okay, Colleen, I don't think anything else has come in, correct?
Correct, nothing else.
All right. Then we will be moving on to urgent business. I believe we do have urgent business, correct? Do we want to, there were 2 things. I don't know if Colleen, I know you mentioned about
I
the
can go
warrant?
real quick.
Sure.
We do, it was discovered actually just prior to the meeting that WAVM's Comcast bill has not been paid since the August bill due to a changing in staffing and how that was set up. So I would like to put it on a warrant for tomorrow, standalone warrant to get it paid. So a check can be mailed out Thursday, and I would like permission from school committee members here to use their stamp in accepting this. It is a full balance of $721.88 at this moment.
Okay, without objection, I think I don't know, any questions anyone has before?
No.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we give permission to Colleen for us to use our stamp in approving the warrant for the WAVM IT needs as presented. What was the amount again? 700 and,
Where is it? Oh, it just logged me out. It was 700 and something and 88 cents.
okay, up to $800.
Yes.
Okay, second,
Second,
any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Mary Branley,
yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Natasha Rivera, yes. All right, Colleen, done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Brian, I know we had some other urgent business with,
Yeah, just to bring the school committee up to date and bring our newest hire, who's actually under the purview of the school committee, our newest school nurse. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Ferrante, who handled that process and can give you a full update on that.
great.
Sure. As far as the process, originally I had posted for a substitute school nurse. We had an applicant, and because she was an RN with 2 bachelor's degree and 10 years in the service as an intelligence analyst, I said, you know what? We also have this opening for a full nurse. And so she came in and interviewed with myself, Mr. Barth, Mr. Kitchell, Jessica, who's our exiting nurse, was not able to attend. We had the interview. She presented as incredibly intelligent, articulate, and unflappable, and with a calmness that I believe is a key skill for a nurse to be proficient, if not excellent. So she has started. Now, she did not come with the certification, which is, we actually have, we've had that a nurse come in without the licensing from DESE before, which is acceptable as long as she works towards that certification as rapidly as possible. So we have met and we mapped out a plan for her to take I believe there's this 3 or 4 introductory courses. These are not full college courses. These are just basic exposure to school nursing. She'll take those. She'll take the action-packed MTEL, which all staff need to take from Mass. And I'm looking to have an additional mentoring, either in-house or out-house or both. So she has other resources to connect with if questions come up, including we have a regional consultant, Ms. Connolly, and I've also been in touch with the Ms. Robitaille, who is out of the Mass School Health Services. So she is already working with Jessica for that transition, because Jessica's leaving, unfortunately, on the 23rd. And I look forward, to be honest with you, I look forward to hearing about her being still in Maynard 10 years from now. She is sharp. So that's a little update. I'll gladly answer any questions folks have. And I did invite her to the meeting today, but she's also still working in the evening at Emerson Hospital. So she has her responsibilities there as well.
Well, I think I know this was unexpected. I know it's more procedural as well, because typically nursing doesn't always require school committee approval. And just for context, this came up because our nurses are not under the collective bargaining. And so this is one of the MGL requirements for that. So it's just more procedural that we basically approve the recommendation put forward, just for context for this, because I know it's not a common practice. Mary, did you have any?
I had a couple of questions, Jeff. So who is paying for her additional classes to become certified? That's not on us, right?
Let's see, it costs all of $250.
For all the 4 classes or whatever that she has to take, and also the MTEL and that, we're not,
I don't know the cost of the MTELs. I haven't taken that in a good 30 years.
okay, but we won't be on the hook for
Generally,
that.
pardon?
We won't be on the hook for that cost, right? We're not helping her to become certified at our expense.
We can.
Okay.
We can. I've done, when teachers take workshops or participate in workshops, I have covered that, and they also can do a request through the school building itself. It's not unusual if they're going through, for staff to go through workshops, that I would support them if they're part of the student services. So it's not unusual.
Okay, I
if
guess
they were
I'm
to
just,
choose to do that.
yeah, I'm only concerned because she's only hired through this year, through June. And what's to keep her, when she's certified, from going someplace else after we've helped to pay for her?
Well, all the nurses are only here through June by
Are
their
they all-
contract.
they're all
on
one-year
annual
contracts?
contracts.
Oh, I did not
On
know
annual
that.
contracts.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
And I think any of the professional development we would offer any of our staff, if they believe that going elsewhere is in their best interest, I wish them well. I
Mhm.
like to think that because of the Maynard community, especially the Fowler family, that she will not want to leave and folks will want to stay for a long time. But Mary, changeover occurs.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if we
yeah.
build a strong enough institution, the institution will survive no matter who is sitting in any of our seats.
Right, right. Who's paying, are we also on the hook for the mentor that's going to be helping her? Because
We have
just trying-
mentoring we pay for mentors in the district already. There is mentoring that we do offer as part of a stipend. At this point, I have not located anyone. I have not even posted.
Okay.
She does have the mentor through the state, who's the regional consultant. That does not cost us anything.
Okay, that's good to know. All right.
But the way I figure it, if I can find someone with a tremendous amount of experience that wants to share that knowledge, I think that would be great for everybody.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Elizabeth?
No, I have no questions. I mean, I'm glad we have a nurse lined up so that we have no gap. It is a very important year to have a nurse, so I'm glad that that's all set. Yeah, that's it.
And you're welcome to come down to Fowler. She's very open. She'll speak with you about anything and everything. And just spending some time with her, you'll realize, ooh, this was a very good hire.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
sorry sorry. Okay. Even if it wasn't me
You're
involved
entitled.
with it, I still think it was a very, very good hire.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, school nurses, having a good school nurse matters a lot. So I'm really glad that you're very confident in her.
Yeah. And the only other just thought is just, yes, I do echo that I am appreciative that we are not having a gap and we're not also needing to rely on outsourcing, which we know that is unreliable and not supportive of the best interest of our students. I think that continuity and care, and I'm really appreciative that she's able to, at least for a short period of time, shadow Jessica while Jessica is still here. I think you don't get those opportunities all that often. And so I'm appreciative of that. I really liked her colorful background, and I would hopefully at some point when we plan a little bit better, we can get her to come say hello at a future meeting. Just to speak after she settles in a bit, just to say hi. I know that the nursing positions are really, really hit hard. Anyway, I do want to make sure she has an opportunity to share with the school committee as other nurses have in the past as well. So, all right. Well, if any other questions? No? Okay, I will make a motion to confirm the appointment of Melissa Warren as nurse of the Fowler Middle School based on the recommendation of Superintendent Haas and Director of Student Services, Jeff Ferranti.
I can second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Mary Branley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Natasha Rivera, yes. Okay, Melissa, welcome to Maynard. And in that same breath, I also want to extend my gratitude extensively to Jessica Giberson. I know that she sent a very touching note to the Maynard community, and I cried when I read it. The time and effort and what she's committed to, and all nurses do, and anyone on the front line, it's really a lot. Comes with a lot of personal sacrifice, and I appreciate that she's taking time to self-care and devote whatever she needs to do for herself and her family. I respect that. I know it's a huge loss to our district. I know as a mom, she helped me with my child at Fowler who needed nursing insight, and she's always been a great resource and asset to our district. So she will be missed tremendously, but all the best, Jessica, in your whatever next chapter is. I hope our paths maybe cross again in the future.
I
So
sent her a personal note also. Yeah,
yeah,
just have gratitude.
yeah, it's a lot. And then, everyone, you need to, it's tough. So I don't want to harp too much, but I do know that I appreciative we have someone to fill in, but I'm also sad in that same thought that we are losing someone who's been such a critical, especially during COVID, critical role for our district. So, all right, Brian, are we good there?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Terrific. Okay. And now, oh, darn, I keep closing the agenda. All right. The student representative report. Colleen had just, I mentioned earlier, our student rep could not be here this evening, but she did, oh, and Colleen, I think I just realized it didn't go to the full school committee. Can you maybe circulate it to everyone and just make sure we get included into our minutes? So neither of the student reps could be here, but they did share a couple of things they wanted to highlight. The telethon was a success. WAVM raised over $30,530 for the Beacon Santa Fund. Student council's wrapping up on a toy drive. A lot of students donated, exclamation point. So that's a lot of emphasis and excitement there. We plan on delivering the goods to the police station in the coming weeks. Students are looking forward to the upcoming winter break, and student council plans on doing a holiday sweater competition on the last day before the break. And I think that's all that I had that they were able to share. And just to echo, the WAVM was fantastic. I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder in celebrating how successful it was, but I'm glad she brought it up, and I know we were all thinking about it. So I'm really excited for all the hard work the students and the staff were able to do. So I think that's it for our student rep report.
If I could just add one more thing, only because the food pantry is the recipient. The high school also did a food drive for the Maynard Food Pantry. So while they were doing the toy drive, they also collected food. So appreciate that.
Great.
We're doing a book drive as well.
Oh, love that.
A lot of drives. I love the spirit of giving there, a lot of giving there, which is really different than, it feels great because the past year, a lot of people haven't been in a position to give so much. And so it really feels exciting that there is a little bit of a change in the people's abilities to, provide service to our community that may not have been so strong in the past year during COVID. So wonderful reporting out. And I think we're all set there. All right, moving on. Oh, sorry, Alexa chimed in because my kids needed something. My apologies there. Okay, next agenda item is the Maynard High School budget. Oh, sorry, Maynard High School Quebec trip request.
Yes, I'll speak about that. My name is James Trudeau. I teach French and Spanish at Maynard High School, and I'm proposing a trip this February to Quebec City. And I can give you the details about the trip in a minute, but it would basically be from February 4th to the 7th. So that would involve 2 school days. It would be open to current and former French students in good standing. And it's during the Winter Carnival in Quebec. So it's a yearly celebration. It didn't happen last year because of COVID, but we've been twice before. We went in, I think it was 2019 was the last time we went, and then we went a couple of years before that as well. We've gone with a tour operator named Jump Street, and they're absolutely fantastic. They tend to think of all possibilities, and they're actually they're very good on the fly. I can tell you a couple of anecdotes that happened in previous trips where things happened that were kind of unexpected, and they were able to just jump right in and help us. First one was our bus. We had a problem with the bus. The first year, the bus actually froze in the parking lot while we were up there. The driver probably should have left it running, but that happened when we were there, and we didn't want to get stuck like just staying at the hotel. So this tour operator was actually able to kind of shuffle other tour buses around, and it was actually seamless. I didn't have to do anything. They just coordinated it amongst themselves, and we didn't miss anything on our itinerary. So that was great. The second trip that we did a couple of years ago was a little more serious of an incident, but they handled it excellently. We drove up in a snowstorm. Of course, that can happen in Quebec in February, and it was pretty significant snowstorm. So we were driving up there, and it kept getting worse and worse. And we decided that, okay, we're not going to make it all the way because the conditions were just so bad. But the tour operator actually contacted a hotel on the way, and we were able to stay at a different hotel, and we ended up, being there, being safe, and then, not missing anything else on our itinerary. We just had to switch a few things around, and it wasn't that big of a deal. So my point in those 2 stories is that this tour company thinks about everything. They've thought about, of course, COVID, but they're also very good about anticipating possible scenarios, things that might go wrong. They provide a monitor in the hotel hallway at night, just so there's no shenanigans, and the chaperones can actually rest, and they don't have to make sure that kids aren't leaving their rooms, because there's someone there that will do that. So I'm very confident in this tour operator. They're excellent. And I don't know if I have much else to say. I mean, I know you're going to have questions. The price is about $1,200 plus a deposit for each student. And that deposit actually, it's kind of like an insurance product, and people can cancel for whatever reason as long as they pay that extra $150, because people may cancel. Part of their procedure with this trip will be, the procedures that Canada imposes on visitors, which will be to be tested at least 3 days before you leave, and you have to provide that test. So each student would have to get a COVID test before. Each student has to be vaccinated. They have to upload that into an app that they would show at the border. And there's certain other details that I can't think of right now, but that's basically the gist of it. So it's a thought, it's a proposal. I personally went to Montreal last October, and I can say, as far as COVID was, they were more strict than Massachusetts as far as letting people into establishments. You had to show and prove that you were vaccinated in certain places. So it may be a little more strict there. As far as COVID rates are concerned, I think they're in a similar, maybe slightly better place than we are right now. But again, it's an ever-changing situation. I'm not going to minimize that risk because it is a risk, but I think it's something that we can consider. So I'll leave it there. I can share some information if you want, if you like, I could share my screen and show you the proposed itinerary.
That'd be great if Colleen, if, it wasn't in the agenda packet, right? So this is
I don't
It
think-
it is, it's part of our
Oh, is it?
packet.
Oh,
it's
okay.
not part of our packet, but
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just,
sorry. No,
I wasn't
no.
sure if it was with the public view.
I can share it if we want.
I know the school committee has seen it, so I don't know if I'll go around and see if while you're doing that, if there's any
Okay.
questions. Mary?
I love the idea. I've always thought it was a really great trip for the kids. So is there a minimum number of kids that have to agree to this? You say 16 to 20, but is there a minimum at which you'll say it's not worth it for us?
Yes, I think when we get to like 12-ish, then the price starts, well, even if it's below, we have to have 15 for the price to not go up. So if sometimes we can finagle 12-ish, but once we get below 12, then the price is going to go up for everybody else, and then people start losing interest because of that. So
Okay.
so I'm hoping 15, but I actually have had a few more students express interest. So hopefully between 15 and 20 would be the magic number.
Excellent. And then I've got a girlfriend that was a French Spanish teacher down in Situate and used to do this with her students every year. And she always brought a nurse or somebody that will
Yes.
there be a nurse that will be
Mhm.
there as maybe part of this jumpstart or?
Well, would they have their own staff on call? I think they have I'm not sure if it's a doctor or a nurse specifically. Previously, we've had 2 teachers go. I mean, if we need to bring a nurse, then that could be one of the chaperones. So typically we have two chaperones for 20 students. We could, I think another teacher would be ideal, frankly. But
Yeah.
I haven't.
Question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we know what the protocol is going up. How about the protocol coming back to Maynard? Are they going to be tested like immediately also before they go back into school or?
As far as that's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. We could do that. I was also thinking about going up. I'll get back to coming back, but going up, we would have to coordinate the testing at a specific time, like 3 days before departure. And I could see if I can coordinate that with our nurse, and maybe we could do that all at the school. I mean, that's something we can look into, but in addition to having the students tested prior to departure, I would have their parents tested too, because I mean, there could be an unlikely event where, they do random testing at the border. And if someone gets tested and tests positive and then they can't go in, then one of the chaperones would probably have to stay there. And then a parent would have to come pick the student up. That's something we'd have to make parents aware of. And, having parents having been tested before would facilitate that scenario. So that's going up. Coming back, we could do that. I mean, the United States will let anybody back in as long as you're a US citizen, no questions. Even if you're positive, you're allowed back into your own country. But we could do that.
Just something to think about. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Beth?
Yeah, so this looks like a great trip, obviously, and I'm glad you have a lot of faith in the provider of the trip. I'm most concerned, obviously, about COVID stuff. Omicron is picking up now,
Right.
and this trip is right after the holidays, basically. And so I worry about the timing of that, and I have questions about, I know you just said what would probably happen if someone got COVID when they're up there, but do you actually know what would have to happen if someone gets
Right.
COVID when they're up there?
Yeah. So the government of Canada says that they would have, that person would have to isolate for 10 days.
Right.
Now, would I don't want to disobey a law of Canada, but I think it would be just be easier for that student to come back to this country. So I would imagine a scenario where one chaperone could escort that student back to the border where that student's parent would pick them up. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, would
Yeah.
they let you do that?
Well, we'd be going back into the United States. So, or if they would, yeah, would they? That's a good question. I mean, they could impose that 10 day isolation, and then that would be a situation.
And the other thing I worry about is if a chaperone gets COVID while you're there.
Right.
That could be a real headache.
Mm-hmm.
And so those sorts of things worry me. And the other question I have is, I know I saw in the documentation that you had kids sign up back in October or express interest. I know you
Yes.
said you were hoping for about 15. How many kids did actually
Correct.
express interest so far?
I have about 17
Okay.
that are seriously interested. Yes.
And then if so, you said you'd like to have parents tested as well.
Right.
Would you say if a parent didn't get tested, the kid would not be allowed to go?
No, not for the parent. I mean, the only requirement is for the student, for the
Right.
person traveling. So I wouldn't force any parent to get tested, but I think we could say that would be a strong recommendation just in case, unlikely, or maybe not unlikely, but in the event that the parent needed to come to Canada to pick the student up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you have some more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. I did have a couple of
Oops.
questions myself. So I was reading the information about the refund, and it does indicate that airfare is not reimbursed if canceled less than 45 days before departure. An additional fee of $75 is required for this coverage. So is that additional?
Yeah, but that's for different
$75?
kinds of trips. That's for airfare. We'd be taking a coach bus.
Okay, so there's only no airfare in any
Right.
of this. It's just busing. So
Right.
how does that work if there is, I guess, to Beth's question, exposure? Because I know that I'm just recalling
Mhm.
there have been school trips where the whole group has had to cancel because of one
Right.
person was COVID positive,
Right.
and that the country made a decision like either don't let them in, or how does that work in that instance? Would it be
So-
refundable at the border? I mean, if
Right.
that's the case.
Yeah, so if everybody cancels, so I'm going to make it a requirement for this trip for everybody to actually purchase that insurance product in order to go. So they're going to have to spend the $150 in addition to the price of the trip. Now, and then anybody can cancel for any reason according to that. So everybody could cancel, and then everybody would be out $150. So, I think that's part of it's going to be part of the price, actually.
So the canceling though, I just want to make sure the timing wise is 100% of the is reimbursed if dropped out at least 48 hours before the start of the trip.
Right.
So it says 50% of the trip price is reimbursed if dropped out within 48 hours. So it's
Right.
only, and then it says no refund if dropping out after the start of the trip. So I guess
Right.
in the event that scenario plays out where someone maybe the day of test positive on day one, so it wouldn't be 100% refundable, right? Because it's within that 48 hours, would be 50% refundable. And in the event that Canada, because I know Canada did close the border to the United States when the United States was a little hairy there for a while. In the event something does happen between now and February, and that does happen, we potentially would, because we're not canceling, but it's the obviously circumstances beyond our, what is that, unforeseen circumstances? Would that COVID matter entitle us to a refund? Because it doesn't look like that. It just says like this is more like you're canceling, but if there's
Right, I think it's called the RPG refund group.
yeah,
And I'm just looking.
like
at
if
it
we're
right
not
now, but I'm-
canceling, but then we can't travel because we're told, we can't travel, does that still qualify for?
Yeah,
um,
it's for any reason. So
Okay,
any reason 48 hours before departure. So if we all canceled, then yeah, we would all lose $150 each, but the rest would be refunded. That's according to, and I trust that they would go by what they've proposed.
do we know how many other districts are allowing these type of trips ongoing right now? Can you speak to that a little bit?
That's, yeah, not many, frankly. I know of one, I don't know which district did it, but this tour company has mentioned that they've had one tour go since I'd say October. So not
Mhm.
many.
And can you, because I know so the first deposit, let me just go back to read
Mhm.
when that time frame is. So, because I know a couple members are not here, but I just want to understand the urgency and
Mhm.
needing a commitment now, because it looks
Yeah,
like,
we do.
yeah, that at this point, if the school committee were not to vote to proceed with that, but wanted to reassess at the next meeting, is that too late, which would be January 6th? That sounds like it would be too late, correct?
Yeah, because they want us to pay at least a month before the trip. So that would be January 4th.
And that would be too, and yeah, so then people need to get money together and all of that. So that would be
Right.
really
Right.
putting that crunch. So if we were to approve this, there's still a chance that people it may not happen because the commitment for each family, you might go below that threshold of,
It's true. That's true. Yep. It's true. We could, yeah, if the number goes below 12, then the price would theoretically go up for the other students and nobody likes that, but yeah.
I got to tell you, I don't like the idea that there's no health professional or something accompanying this because Beth makes a very good point that a chaperone gets sick and what do you have one person.
Right.
And there's a lot of, if someone, in the moment a student needs to quarantine, maybe they get sick while they're, there, that's one person who needs to be dedicated to that
Right.
particular student and then less elsewhere. So
Yeah. We could have the nurse be the other chaperone, honestly. That
We can't really pull a nurse out of the schools now.
that's true too. Yeah.
and I don't know if Jeff, Brian or Jeff, I don't know if you have any thoughts then maybe on nursing or how that may or may not be possible or work. I don't know this.
Or how about a third chaperone? Is that a possibility? Just a third person?
Oh, we would have to pay for that.
Okay,
That
alright,
wouldn't be covered by the tour company, but
okay.
we
But what
could.
so that would just be what, like 3,
3 adults.
but then the salary for 3 days worth of
Mhm,
would
yeah.
would be the
David,
added.
I have a question. Do they run any tours to Quebec later in the year, like in the spring?
Mm, I'm not sure. This one is specific for this event
Winter.
and
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
the winter carnival.
Right.
I don't know if they do later.
Mhm.
They may.
So there aren't any Jumpstart employees that accompany you on this trip, right, James? They just do all the organizing.
No, there is a tour guide.
There's one.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that
there's
is
a
a
tour
third
guide.
person, so that's a third adult.
Not a health person though, I think is what we're
Right, right. Right, but at least it's
Yeah.
a good adult.
And not a
Mhm.
school person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Beth, just want to get your thoughts. I know what is your gut?
I guess there's
Really?
no. I'm sorry. I feel like I love this trip is great. Quebec is great. It's a place that I would hope to go to around that time also. But I just feel like there are too many ways at this point that it could potentially fall apart in a way.
Right. And honestly, I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, this body is going to make its own decision. There's next year. I
Yeah.
mean, if we don't decide to do it this year, then, I mean, we did do it 2 years ago. So I think most students that have taken French or previously took French have had the chance to go on the trip, and they went 2 years ago. If we go next year, I think we'll still have most students covered that have taken French. And I completely understand. I mean, it is a risk.
Totally stinks. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it's just such a
I
great
know.
opportunity, and I
It is.
just the circumstances are just, I don't know.
Not
It
on our
would-
side. They just keep not being on our side.
Right.
You know?
It would be,
Yeah.
it would be great to kind of research that, James, as far as a different time of the year, because unfortunately, I see us being in the exact same place next winter.
Right.
You know, winter is just going to be the worst time for the
Right.
next few years, I'm afraid. So
Yeah.
maybe to come back to us with a spring trip when things have opened up and it's more fresh air, and that might be great.
Okay.
Man, this stinks.
Or maybe, I mean, if it God, Mary, that's so sad. But yes, you might be right. And if that is the
Yeah.
case, then maybe by next year we'll have a better handle on what we do, you know,
Maybe.
as a society,
Right.
what we do for a
Right.
trip like this, you know.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I know.
I completely understand.
Love this
and
trip. I just
Yeah,
love
it's a
this trip.
fantastic
too.
trip, and there will be other times. I'm confident in in the future.
Thank you for your efforts.
Yeah.
So I
forever.
guess we will we'll need to vote. And I guess it sounds like the majority we are not comfortable with recommending this at this time. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? So I'll
Yeah.
go ahead and make a motion that we do not approve the Quebec trip for February 2022 at this time due to uncertainty regarding COVID and the pandemic.
Yeah. Regretfully.
Very,
Mhm.
very regretfully. Make sure that regretfully is in bold in the motion, Colleen.
I completely understand.
Oh, this is gut wrenching.
We'll do it
It's-
again.
Yeah,
Mhm.
any
All right, thank
second
you
on
for
that?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
No.
Okay, roll call. Mary Brandling,
Yes, I guess we're voting yes to not go forward, right?
yeah. It's, yeah, that's that
Yeah,
little bit of
Yes
a
to not go forward.
yes to not recommend at this time. Beth,
Yes.
okay, and Natasha, yes, and I'm sorry that,
Thank
you
you,
know,
James.
No, I understand. It's
Ugh.
completely understandable. I feel like maybe if I were in your seat, I might say the same thing.
like with kids and health and safety, like in
Right.
just so much uncertainty,
Right.
I just feels in the time frame, if we had more time to really think about planning with the safety part, but it just even that, like
Right.
there's so many elements
There's
outside of our control
A lot of
with
variables.
Canada and stuff that just really are disconcerting. So I'm sorry, I know that that's not the outcome that I think folks wanted, but I look forward to hearing other opportunities and hopefully
I think we'll get there
Yeah.
someday.
yes.
We look
I'd like to be able to say
forward to-
yes to a school trip
I know.
soon. I mean, to be
Yes.
honest, like, I'm just,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank
All right,
you
well,
very
thank you for your
much.
time. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
again for
James.
everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
Okay.
good night.
You too.
You
Thanks.
too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, man.
Oh, and wrenches.
Yeah.
That like it really it just is anyway, terrible. Okay, FY23 budget recommendation. I know we had Brian. I don't know if you want to speak any more about this. I know there was some additional information.
Sure. I mean, there was additional information put into the folder. I mean, really nothing's changed on the proposal for FY '23. You've all seen, I assume, the additional information. I'm happy to talk about it in terms of, so if I think back to the slides, I don't know if we need to screen share them or not. It may be easier, Colleen, if you want to screen share that presentation.
Did we,
Um,
yeah, is this something the public, I couldn't remember where is this posted somewhere or do we,
they've
it
seen
is,
it.
okay.
And I
Okay,
didn't change it, so just if we can go to
Okay.
the slide. Yep, keep going to the MPS slide. Well, actually, back up one slide. This is kind of an interesting thing. So what I realized was, or is, can you back up one more, Colleen? I'm sorry. Actually, go forward. I think I'm just lost in my own presentation here. There you go. That's the one I'm looking for. So nicely, well, this doesn't necessarily do it. We'll keep going. Keep going. One more, Colleen. Okay, let's start here. This is a great slide. So one of the things that became crystal clear this week is that even though this is a very preliminary budget, which I don't know that I made it sound that way a week ago, because I don't know that I felt it was all that preliminary. I felt like it was really pretty hard and fast. But what has come to light in the last week is that the town administrator's recommended budget, that's not solid yet. That's based on a lot of unknown factors. So that even though they gave us this number, which is on the screen that you can see 22,026,431, and we really wrapped our head around how do we strategically move the district forward, be very strategic about our asks, and really try and stay within that number to be cognizant of the town as a whole and what does the town need, and not be greedy and ask for many, many, many things that would benefit a school district, but be very strategic to where we're currently at. And we did that. And the town is, we had a meeting with the head of the select board chair, and the town administrator and the school committee chair, myself. But what came to light is that number, the 22 that they allocated, is pretty flexible at this point. They've just put it out there. And even though we are very close to it, in fact, we're about $2,500 off of that number, that's not a set in stone number. So what does all that really mean? We're likely going to have to reduce our ask at some point in the next couple of months at some level. I don't know at what level. It'll really be dependent upon the town administrator and what the other departments, and once everything gets put together. So I'm still very comfortable with our asks. I think they were strategic. I think they were good for the district. So now, Colleen, I just wanted to put that out there. I think that was kind of just an awakening. So this one, we have the athletic director. And, it's funny, we continued to do research, talk about the athletic director, put a job description together for the athletic director in terms of responsibilities. And it's a long list, including assisting with advertising and really overseeing athletic programs and departments and helping with the vision and goals of the department. And you can read the job description. I'm not going to necessarily read that to you because I know you can all do that. But then even very specifically, there was some other information that I shared with the school committee about. So what does that look like for a full-time position and how are their hours broken down? And a lot of it is event management, meetings, administrative pieces in terms of social media and emails and postings and supplies and rosters and working with MIAA. It's a really big job. And we also looked at, just to sort of back up, so why did we come up with this, this salary and this job? Because we really linked it to our students' social and emotional well-being. Because by having this, we maintain our programming, we were able to expand our athletic programming even this year. And we did some work on salaries, and the median annual salary for an athletic director was $59,000 and change. Now, if you've been doing the job for a while and you're at a comparable regional school from here, you're actually making significantly more than that. So there are a lot of full-time athletic directors that are really close to what teachers are making. They're at that $100,000 mark. You notice I didn't ask for that because we're not there. We're really at the beginning phase of hopefully, we're at the beginning phase of transitioning from a stipend to a full-time athletic director. And as I said, you know, it's a hope at this point. I think it's a good ask for our district. I think it'll be helpful moving us forward, both programmatically for our students' health and social emotional well-being. It connects to some advertising, it connects to programming. So I just wanted to give a little clarity around that one. The athletic trainer, I can actually, at some point, we'll have, if this gets through, you know, if the budget is voted and, you know, the town actually, when they settle on an allocation number and when everything falls out, if that is even still there, we'll have them come, we'll have the athletic director come and do a presentation on the athletic trainer, because it's really shifted from years ago when we didn't have athletic trainers. We didn't even really pay attention to concussions. We really had a paramedic or a firefighter at the side of the football field on Friday night, and that's all we did. And we hoped for the best. And then things changed and we had more support for our students, health and safety. Concussion policies came into play several years ago. So we really take a much more proactive approach to their physical health. And that's the purpose of the athletic trainer, to be on site to really help all the kids if they're at practice, if it's a game, and they have the ability to go from one field to another field and support all the kids. So they're hopefully being taken care of as well as possible. I'll go through the few slides. I won't necessarily restate each and every item, but if you have questions, we can absolutely go back and discuss them. Colleen, can you? Yep. Again, this one I think was pretty well explained in terms of the physical education teacher, the teacher in the Tiger program. We talked a lot about the Tiger program. I still think that will end up being a priority for us because it's good for the kids that we have now who need that. And it's also financially long-term, it's a savings. Even though I am absolutely asking you to vote to spend some monies, it's building a program in-house to then allow us to keep those kids in the Maynard Public Schools and not have to pay to send them out to an out-of-district placement and add transportation onto that. Okay, one more, Colleen. Actually, it won't be the last one, but it's one more. So the literacy program, which will show up here, and the next one, I spoke with the principals involved in the pilot, and they are planning on coming in January to give an overview and then do a presentation with the public and then come back to the school committee again after that. But just so we're as clear as possible, the literacy program, and maybe the title is a little deceiving, it's not one program. It's many pieces that make up a balanced literacy program. So it involves phonics and phonemic awareness, fluency, comprehension. So it really addresses the different components of reading. So within the literacy program are things like foundations, Heggerty, classroom libraries. So that's what this money is for. It could involve professional development, but quite frankly, I think that will come out of a different line within the budget for professional development. So this is not a person or a consultant, and it's not one program. Like some of the programs that we've talked about in this district would be like Wit and Wisdom. Some of the programs that we've talked about that, oh, we don't want to buy that program, would be Fontes and Pinnell. This is not $50,000 for any one of those programs. Just to hopefully clarify that a little bit. Thank you, Colleen, you're good. You see, I say, and you know to go on. I appreciate that. And again, here it's really, so the Tiger program we've talked about, the paraprofessional who also supports the Tiger program, the literacy program is the same explanation here. The Luncheon Recess, I was able to add, I hope, a little bit of explanation within the folder, but it came late. So by all means, you may not have seen it, even glanced at it yet, but there may have been a concern at the last meeting, which I didn't recognize, that some of the specialist teachers at Green Meadow could have thought that their jobs were being reduced in some way because of the phrasing of this. That's not the anticipation, not necessary, not part of any conversation that was had prior to that or since then. It's a matter of rescheduling within the day, still having students gain some instructional time, which we think is good, It changes when and how they do specials, but it doesn't reduce their schedule so that anyone would be in jeopardy of becoming 0.8 or something like that, which I think may have been a question or in the background, but that's not part of it. And we would work to, and I know there's concern that this was a model that was here years ago, but we would work hard to do the best we can to make sure we're hiring people who will be consistent and become part of the Green Meadow staff, and kids will recognize them as part of the Green Meadow staff and adults, and they will build that relationship because they'll see them day after day after day, kind of like a substitute, if you will. Sometimes they become long-term substitutes, and that relationship builds from that. So that's what that was about. And I'm not sure what the next slide is. It's been okay, so we could just stick on this one if you want. It's got everything listed. Yeah, and it will change. I'm the first one to tell you that after this week, I don't think anything new will be added. I think what we'll end up doing after the vacation is really prioritizing. We started talking about that at the leadership team today. Like, we have all this stuff on there. We likely will not get approval of all of that from the town, from what they allocate us. You may give us approval on the proposed budget. And then it will ultimately end up probably changing, and we'll have to prioritize these items. That's my understanding as of Thursday night.
Okay, Brian, thank you for expanding on some of those points that were discussed last week.
Sure.
I do have a couple of questions and points, but I'll wait till everyone else speaks. So
Okay.
Beth, I'm going to start with you if you're ready.
Yeah, so I'll start from the back of what you said and go towards the front.
Sure.
So my first question is the thing about the supervisors for lunch and recess. Could you just explain what is the system now? What is happening with the system now? What is happening at lunch and recess right now? What are we changing from?
Yeah, so the teachers do, my understanding is the teachers do recess duty,
Okay.
which is fine,
Mhm.
except a few years ago within the contract, what got added was if a teacher does recess duty, they get an additional 30-minute prep from what they already have,
Mhm.
which doesn't really sound like a bad thing, except for the fact that it then means that that student can't be in the classroom being taught. So it's 30 minutes less instructional time,
Mhm.
where they then are sort of built into a dual special schedule. So they go to specials twice, once when they normally would go, and then a second time so that the teachers can get that additional prep.
Mhm. Okay, so in this model, the teachers would still have the preps. These people would be taking over the duty. I'm sorry, is that right?
So in the new model, they would still get their prep, they would still get lunch, they just won't get that extra.
Oh, they won't anymore.
Because they get that
Because
because
they will
they
no
do
longer
recess
be,
duty.
okay, I got
Right.
it. Okay. And that is, so was that negotiated? Do you have to negotiate that then? Or that's because you're making the shift, then you don't have to
Oh, we
negotiate
lost
it?
Brian.
You just
Okay,
make
there
it.
you are.
No.
Sorry.
No, good question.
Like
We
he's
wouldn't
hiding
have
under
to
the desk.
renegotiate it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so scary.
No, that's okay. We would not have to renegotiate that. It's in the contract so that if the teacher does it, this is what they get. If the teacher doesn't do it, then they don't get that.
Mhm.
So
And what are
it's-
they saying about this? Are they saying that they are having a hard time conceptualizing how they could do the job they're trying to do with less prep time? Or are you hearing how do
No,
they
they're
know?
no,
Are
they're
you, sorry, are you
No.
hearing anything from the teachers about the loss of that time?
so no.
Okay, all right.
I
And
think
then
last week what I heard was there was some concern from the specials that they were worried that they may be being reduced, which
yeah, I heard that too.
which that just wasn't part of the conversation. So, we learned that we needed to address that earlier in the process. That's all.
Okay, so then once you talk to them more and they figured out that they won't be reduced, then they're fine with not doing duty and staying as it is. That's right.
Correct.
Okay. So when was the last time? So I guess my question is, you said we're going to get great people and they'll come, but as you know, everyone's having a hard time hiring people to work in a school at this point, and it's hard to find subs. And so I guess I do still worry about that, about us being able to find the people who will be able to come and do a good job on this. And then I do also wonder if you already thought this far ahead, what does happen if someone is absent? You know, so, you know, is there just less supervision, or do they have to get a sub pulled in, or what happens then?
I mean, the same thing that happens now. They would pull somebody else to help. I mean, we don't really, I mean, I suppose you could say at some level there's less supervision somewhere, but there won't be less supervision at recess, because whether that, it may mean the principal or the assistant principal, or they'll pull somebody to be out there. And you're right, I'm not going to disagree that it could be a challenge to hire. But we hope things get better and better, and we are finding more people. We are finding a nurse. We found a contact tracer. I mean, we are finding people who are wanting to come back to work.
Okay. And do you know what happened before? Why did what ultimately destroyed the system before? Do you have the history on that?
So my understanding is that, and there's people on screen who probably know better than me, so I may be talking a little
You're
from
fine.
just hearsay.
Yeah.
But I'll start, and then people can correct me, that the behavior of the students deteriorated because they didn't have the relationship with the person who was doing duty, and it became a problem, and it was sort of just built upon itself in a negative, so that they wanted, I think people felt like if the teachers did it, it would be better. The teachers didn't necessarily think they didn't necessarily want to do that for nothing. So there was this agreement at some point in in the contract, that if they did this, they would get this. And there was an agreement about that.
Right.
But it's at another expense. So when, now we have, we're several years later, we have different kids and different teachers and different administrators. And as they're looking at it, I think they're trying to look at how can, we look at the data, and it sort of goes back to the literacy question, if you will, is how do we really make sure our kids are reading and writing successfully? And and we know as educators, we want them to get the most amount of tier 1 instruction as possible. So if it means we need to be creative and do a little more work around the recess schedule, I would like us to do that so that our kids are gaining that much instructional time.
Okay. And then is there a plan in place then to make sure that there is some way that these people are trained and potentially building those relationships with kids, so that it's not the same exact story again where everything falls apart and then you have to go back to the system and it just keeps swinging,
That's great question. I don't know that that plan's been built, but the conversation, that's been part of the conversation. So the principal and the assistant principal are like, absolutely, they will be trained, whether it's, and I don't know who's doing what, but that is part of the conversation. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So then I'm going to ask about the full-time AD, and
Sure.
because I have a couple of questions. First, I hear you when you say that obviously sports are good for the kids' social emotional learning, but there are so many things we need for that right now. And I guess my question is, why this position now, as opposed to, for example, another school adjustment counselor?
Great question. I guess I really worry that we will not have an athletic director that wants to be in Maynard. We have had trouble keeping an athletic director in Maynard. We've had people that have done it as a stipend, as a teacher, and then they do the best they can. And I think something gives. It's either the teaching or the athletic director responsibilities. And then we had an administrator try and do it. And they do the very best they can. But it's, as I've learned, and I think, if you're in schools, that job is equally big here as it is next door, in a bigger system. And we got somebody, and I'm really grateful because he's doing just a great job, who went to school to be an athletic director and then got trained at a system much bigger than Maynard, and is really just taking the opportunity to be a full-time athletic director and running with it. And so my concern is if we don't expand it, literally, it's a 50-hour-a-week job. None of us on screen would do that for $10,000. It's just not, I don't think it's sustainable for anybody. They might do it for a year. They might do it for 2. But if they're doing it and they're only making the stipend, my concern is you're only gonna do the best you can do. And if you have another full-time job or something, so if this becomes, and I think most, as I said, I think many systems started this way. So I don't think it's like, oh, we're so, this is so unique to Maynard. I think this was very, very common, but I think they transitioned to a full-time AD a little bit earlier than we have, hopefully. Meaning I'm hoping we can get there, because I really think it could be helpful for Maynard. I mean, so many of the things that we talk about that could be done with athletics, I think, are limited, so we don't have somebody overseeing it.
Are you saying that who we have there right now is doing those 50 hours on the stipend? So that those numbers you had in the folder are not what
Yeah.
we hope someone's going to do, but that's actually what's happening now
That's,
with the stipend.
I
Okay.
think, yes,
Okay. When was the last time we had a full time? Have we ever had a full time?
no,
Ever?
not to my knowledge. Mary?
No, Chuck, not in my knowledge either. I don't know about Chuck, but nope, we've never had one
Mhm.
Mary would
Mhm.
know. She goes back
for a long time at least.
many a superintendents.
Yeah, I'm gonna direct all my long-term questions to Mary from now on.
No.
I think that's okay. I won't.
I
be
haven't heard
afraid.
anything different either, so, you know, I definitely don't.
Okay. So you're saying that you think that students will benefit from this because when we have someone in place who can actually do the job and put all their attention on it, then our athletics can be better, and that is how the students benefit from it.
I agree with that.
Is there anything you want to add to that? Anything?
I mean, I think things that we aren't able to do because we just don't have capacity would he contribute to advertising? I think he will. Whoever, and I say he because the person right now, but that role would contribute to that. I also think they would contribute to connecting with the the teams in town and making relationships with them. So what I've seen in other places with the full-time athletic director is they bring in the town basketball kids to see the varsity basketball game. But they have the time in their day to call the coaches of the town teams and reach out to the rec department to make that connection, because it's the same kids. And if you get them excited because they're on the town team in 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade, then they play in middle school, and then ultimately they end up on your varsity team in high school. Some of them will. But you can really start to make some relationships between town and school at an earlier age. I see that as really exciting. I think that's just healthy for kids. I think it's healthy for the community. And that's something that I haven't seen us be able to do consistently. We may do a one-off at a football game because all the coaches are like, hey, let's bring the Renegades. Is that the right? Come on, somebody nod. Is that the
That's
right?
the
is that-
football. Yeah,
the
they're, I
football,
think
right,
they're
the
the,
football.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and they introduce them, but that's something that I think a full-time AD can help and really support, is that connection.
Okay. And yeah, that sounds great. I'm wondering if so we just started the fields task force, and I know that they're, obviously not in charge of the athletics for the schools, but they are working towards some kind of clarity about things like advertising and people's roles and how to make all that work. And I'm wondering if there's a benefit to putting this off for a year and getting our heads around, that sort of thing and getting more clarity instead of doing it this year. And I guess a lot of my hesitancy comes down to that, this is not a one-time expense. This is an ongoing expense. And as you kind of referenced when you spoke, this is an expense that's going to grow every year. And it is eventually going to hit quite a bit of money, and we do have to pay for the benefits for this person too. So it is a lot of money. And so I know it is great, and it is a lot of work for someone to do for $10,000, obviously, but also, it's just going to be so much money as we go forward. And so is it worth, especially this year when we're thinking about all sorts of things, like you said, we're thinking about literacy, we're thinking about math skills, which we saw in the MCAS presentation last week. Is this where we put our attention now, or do we wait another year, punt it, and then say, like, now that we have a little more clarity and we have come through COVID more, now we can do this better?
I would recommend we do it now. I think we run the risk of somebody who really likes it of going somewhere else. And I think we're in a position to really move forward. I mean, it's kind of interesting. You mentioned the fields, and I think we will get resolution in the next few months on fields and advertising. And to not have somebody, then we're not back where we were, but then we don't have any capacity internal to assist with that at all. Whereas if we do move forward with it, I think we gain both for the students in terms of their programming and athletics, and we have somebody who's set to help with the advertising as well. So I think it's sort of a win-win.
Okay. Okay. And then thank you for all that. And then as for so we will get the literacy program presentation that will give us a lot of detail about how you reached the decisions you made, about, hopefully there'll be some kind of data about what led you to the decisions you made and why you're choosing this as opposed to that, and what exactly we're getting for the money that they're putting forward.
I think, yes. And so my conversation today is we're looking at 3 presentations, sort of a high level overview to start with the school committee, and then a more in-depth version with the community, and the school committee could come to that as well, but just for the community forum, and then ending with a more thorough in-depth presentation to the school committee as sort of part 3.
Okay.
And I think,
I'm sorry, one more question about the AD, actually. You do have to put that out and post it, yeah?
Yep, and actually, I'll have to, if we move forward with it, and if it's successful, we'll have to write an MOA with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and is it,
It's not a problem
it's not a
because-
union, it's not a union position, or it is?
So it's not, except it's in the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be in the union, but that's why we would write an MOA to
Mhm.
allow it to be, it could be anybody
Okay,
to take that job.
okay, all right, okay, thank you for all the answers.
Sure. No, thank you. Good questions. I appreciate that.
Okay, Mary?
Yeah, just had a few, Brian. So the athletic director, who would he report to? Is that to you or is that Chuck at the high school? Because that wasn't in the job description.
I would say me.
Okay, all right, that's what I was hoping. Okay, nothing against Chuck. It's just, I think, yeah,
It's more of a district position, even though
right.
I do recognize the majority of it. Majority is high school centered. It also is district wide.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking, because it's also going to be at the lower grades and that, so it'd be tough. Yeah. And the trainer will then report to the athletic director. Sorry.
Yes.
Asking
Yes.
specific. Okay, all right. And then when you, with that position, up on that, that one slide where you talked about the 60,000, could we put a note in there to say that it includes the current, or that currently it's $11,000 stipend or something, so that everybody in the public knows that it's not an additional 60,000. We're actually paying 11,000 now. So we're netting 49,000 just for transparency.
Sure.
That sound okay?
That's a good idea. That's helpful.
And then one of the other pieces that I see as far as this athletic director, as far as the revenue piece goes, we've lost revenue, obviously because of COVID, but with the facility rentals and the field rentals and that. So that person is also going to be working on that. So their job will actually, create revenue, so that better validates them. My question is, will they also be, this person also be streamlining, will all of the times allotted for the fields and that all go through this person also? So that they'll orchestrate who's on first, what's on second.
Correct.
Okay, so that's another job that they'll be taking care of. So, and then as far as the lunch and the recess, how many people are we talking? Is it 2 people at recess or is it 3? Just because I don't know how many usually are out there. Sorry.
So that's kind of funny. There are a lot out there right now.
Yeah, that's why whenever I'm there.
I think it's probably, realistically, it's 2 or 3.
Okay, all
I
right.
think there are days that there are just more out there. Just, it depends. It looks like a lot because there are days that the principal and the assistant principal and a guidance counselor, and there's 2 and then there's other teachers. It's hard for me to know exactly who's supposed to be there.
Right.
We
So
have a
2
lot
to
of nice coverage out there.
2 to 3 people. I will
Mhm.
say that speaking to this new plan, if we're fortunate enough to do it, last year, I don't know, happened to be in Green Meadow 1 or 2 times when the kids were being escorted up and down the halls, and I got a couple of rolling eyes from the teachers saying, another special. It's like there's no continuity to concentrated time. So I have to believe that the teachers are gonna like this method better of not having the kids leave the classroom so often, twice a day versus once a day.
I think less transitions is
Yes,
probably good for everybody.
exactly. Yeah. So it seemed frustrating to them. And then my third thing is Mike Bath brought up this late bus. Can we put that in the equation? Just, we said we can talk about it. Can we just put it in paper in the budget?
We can add it to it, right? So we actually did, just in
Okay,
full disclosure, we called the bus company to ask, even if we wanted to try it right now, could we? And what would it cost? And not only do they not have buses or drivers, the person who we talked to, who's sort of the manager, if you will, she has her own bus route in the afternoon. That's how
Okay.
short they are. So this year, we couldn't do it even if we could pay a
Right.
million. It's not even there, but we can definitely add it to this list.
yeah, if we could just put it there in writing, because then even if it doesn't happen this year, again, it's front and center for everybody for the following year, because Mike especially made it sound like it would be well worth the money for the benefit of the kids. So, and that was it. That's everything I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Natasha,
Yes, thank you. So I did want to highlight a couple of things that came up in our budget subcommittee, which I thought were important context to share. So you were able to get confirmation that the PEG access will not be an FY23 urgency that needs to be addressed, but FY24, correct?
yes.
Okay, all right. So just for clarity, because I know that that has been kind of a back and forth, but and what we also saw, which is kind of interesting, is that the benefits for the staff who are being, so not only the salary, but the benefits are also coming out of PEG access, which is a bit unusual because they are permanent staff. And it's not a grant funding. So I know that that will be probably conversations to be had at another time, but it is, there are elements that the town also leverages PEG access for. I think there is a town capital outlay for $20,000 and some other things. So it isn't just all reliant on the school department, but there is, although it is heavily school department, it isn't all school department. So I just want to make sure that we, in the back of our minds, that is something that doesn't need immediate attention, but looking forward to next year, we need to have a deeper discussion for budget subcommittee and our superintendent. Then the athletic trainer, can I ask a question about that person? You had mentioned that the current process is in historical process has been that we have an EMT on site for games. To do that, would the athletic trainer's presence at the games save us in that expense that we would not require to have the EMT services that we pay for right now? Or would we still have to have both?
I believe so, but I will confirm that.
Okay, that'll be helpful to just kind of clarify, because if there is a savings there, which, I'm guessing some expense that might get journaled back. I know like we pay for police, detail and whatnot, but if it's also EMT that we have on site that we need to pay for, that might be something we don't have to pay in the future because we have someone trained and certified on site. That would just be helpful to kind of put those pieces together where it's not an add expense. Or if there's less need for it, at some games, but just to quantify that would be helpful. The other part too, just to highlight the Tiger program. I just can't speak enough about how important having these both at Green Meadow and the high school are to our district. Right now, the out-of-district schools are at capacity. And so kids who even have referrals to go out of district, there's really no place for them to go because there's wait lists. And so we are in a dire need to build internal capacity. And we've been asking for a Tiger program at Green Meadow for a couple years now. So this is now, I think I would consider it rising to the level of extreme urgency to support our students. And we need to do it. So I really support that wholly, and I appreciate that you're prioritizing that at the high school and at the elementary school, because it is well overdue there. The literacy piece, I'm very glad to hear that we will have a presentation on that. I do also hope that there is a DESE literacy plan out there for any person, school committee member, parent to read. Something that I found of interest in that plan, it does state, and I just want to quote with accuracy, in how because this comes up quite a bit, as recent scholars have also argued that a comprehensive literacy curriculum, one that is developed to be coherent and connected through its various components, is superior to a piecemeal approach because various components developed in isolation miss opportunities to reinforce each other or offer authentic tasks that tie together all components. This is true for the various components of early reading, and it cites research and as well as reading, writing connections for later grades. And then it also goes on to cite certain things. So I will implore that literacy plan is something that when we hear our presentation or one that's for the community, to see how our plan aligns with DESE's literacy plan as much as possible. And I think they also have a page called Curate, which cites ed reports and, you know, all of the different curriculums. So it'd be great to hear how that is being factored into the recommendations that that are being discussed internally and decisions being made on how that money is being expensed for that. Then the other part too is the athletic director. So I appreciate the pivot to kind of reconsider that it does seem more beneficial to add at least some aspect of advertising to this job. And I appreciate the thought that you given to that. I don't think anyone is believing that this person would take on all advertising. So I want to make sure that that was clear. That was not my intent in advocating for this last week, but it was more so that we've acknowledged there is that seems to be a low-hanging fruit to help offset, so bring in some revenue to help address some of our field maintenance concerns. And we also acknowledge that we don't have the capacity internally right now. So this seemed like the viable solution in some athletic director. I don't know if that equals to a full-time FTE at this moment, but I do appreciate the discussion where that would be part of that person's role. And I think that the vetting, this beyond the school committee, you know, this request will get vetted at FinCom and the select board, you know, so whatever number they end up approving, you know, will potentially require a pivot. And I'm glad that you've, you know, gotten a little bit clarification on that, although it's very frustrating that maybe that wasn't so clear earlier on. So anyway, I also do acknowledge that I think sports have a very real intangible or maybe intangible actually benefit to students' well-being because of the overall wellness mentally, socially, and that does impact a student's ability often to learn in the class. So I know from that respect, I do recognize the benefit of having a well-rounded program and in that regard. So thank you for that. Let me, I had one more question. Let me see where oh, sorry. I also actually just wanted to apologize for the injection into the conversation last week that came about kind of randomly regarding the cutting of specials or however that was, you know, I could tell it kind of took a couple of folks off, you know, off guard and just, you know, wanted to make sure that I'm glad that you've had some conversations behind the scenes and to get clarity and speak to those who need to be spoken to make sure that there is intentional discussions on this. There's no surprises that are trying to be, you know, passed without really engaging all stakeholders. So thank you and Rob for kind of working on that. And I think what it is tonight is that we're going to be voting to accept the recommended request, but there will be massaging. We will be going to FinCom January 10th. They will have their own set of questions. I think that it will get vetted, and at some point, I think to your point, Brian, it will get pushed back where we get, you know, Mary and I in the budget subcommittee will probably hear more about where that is, the resistance is, what we might need to clarify, get more validation on. But as long as you understand that now, that there might be plan 2 or plan 3 in your pocket necessary. I do hope that whatever revisions that may be necessary, that it is not going to be to the in-classroom aspects that I think we all appreciate are sorely needed. And I do agree that having less transitions in the elementary is really critical. I mean, that's a lot of kids, transitions are super tough. A lot of dysregulation comes about. And so any opportunity to lessen those, I think, is in everyone's best interest, teachers included.
And to add
So-
learning time also.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it could be a win-win all around if everyone is in favor of it. So I really hope that that is something that we were able to do, because increasing learning time is just, to me, a no-brainer. Other than that, I just want to make sure we get here in commitment. So we will hear in January from the school committee. We'll get a separate presentation. Is that what I understood?
Yes.
Okay.
For literacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we make sure that that literacy presentation is in line or in the format of the literacy plan that DESE has? So I know that they have certain steps and components of like timeline and like what they've done, like all the vetting and what they're doing. So I just want to make sure that it is, they have a process there. I forget what it's called, but it's like, I don't remember what it is.
Literacy program. Yeah, I was just looking at it.
Yeah. So it's pretty clear on how it should be done when districts are reassessing their curriculum and all that. And I just want to make sure that that is what I would hope that we would, kind of look at and share with the school committee and like how those different steps that we're doing and where are we? Because I think there's also timelines and expectations. So it would be helpful to see where we are in that longer, plan, because I know we've been talking about it for about a year now. So I'd like to understand where we fall in that timeline and what are we expecting in FY23? What are we expecting in FY24? That kind of stuff. So if we could have that type of, that would be really great.
Yeah, we can align that.
Okay, thank you. And I think I don't have any other questions at this point. I'm good.
Okay. Great questions, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we need to take a vote to support?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me get that dollar amount again. It was, oh darn. So I will make a motion that we accept the budget FY23 budget superintendent budget request for $22,028,934.
Mhm.
Um,
I can second.
all right. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Mary Branley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Uh-oh. Oh, she's
Colleen, can you
muted.
unmute her? Elizabeth?
oh wait, did she want to discuss? Did I miss? Okay,
No, I think she's just saying she's muted.
Yeah. just
okay.
muted.
I
Thank
didn't know I didn't know if you wanted to be part of the discussion. I didn't see. I was like, oh darn. Okay,
No, I'm just doing my vote. Yes.
okay, yes, all right. And Natasha Rivera, yes. All right, and Brian, and then that is something that you'll circle right away to Greg, so he has all the where to go with that, correct?
Correct.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really looking forward to that literacy presentation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really looking forward to it.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
is Charles, by the way. He's pretty excited. He woke up for that part of the conversation.
I saw it. Thank you, Charles. I'm so excited. Honestly, I think it's just
Yeah.
because we've talked about it and,
Yeah.
and
I
if
wanted,
we
I
need
wanted
it.
to be sure that we followed that we follow through on the DESE, using, the DESE format. Okay. So
Okay.
that's why I woke up.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I feel like we're timely because sometimes, like I'm thinking of Acton, who is like 2 years ahead of us, and I'm sure they're hoping that what they put in place is now going to follow DESI. DESI tends to be a little bit slow, so we're in a good place right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think,
Actually, a
oh,
quick
sorry.
question. Charles, will we
Yep.
get to see who's on the literacy committee too? Will they be helping present?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So there'll be some teachers in there too?
That is a plan at this time, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, great. All right. Charles, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And all right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, school committee goals. I know that in our last meeting, it was indicated that I think folks were pretty comfortable with what was written. And so I don't, although wait, hold on a second, were they? Oh, here we go, copy. Okay, sorry. So I just want to open it up just briefly. Beth, is there anything else that you wanted to emphasize, or, and I just, maybe it might be helpful. Are these available publicly? I don't know if the public has seen these, Colleen. No? Okay. So I think what I might just do is just, because they're not very lengthy, but just read them just for,
Or screen share them?
yeah, screen share them. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
That'd be great, because I don't want to
That's easier.
save myself the breath.
Yeah, that's easier.
Yeah, it'll just
Thank
take me a minute.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Colleen.
Thank you. And while you're doing that, so Beth, is there anything that you wanted to add, or are you
No,
pretty good?
I think it's good that we let people know what they are, and I think that we let people know what we are actually focused on this year. And these will be going up, I imagine, on the website as soon as we approve them after tonight. Yeah, is that right? Okay, good.
That would be
So-
my thought as well, that they would be posted somewhere on the school committee page.
Mhm. I'm glad, I'm glad we're meeting our unstated goal of getting these in before the end of the year. So hopefully by next year we can even do better and potentially get them in at near to the beginning of the school year.
We are getting better. Last year, I think it was January, so
It was.
Look at us.
it's
improvement.
difficult.
Give us a check for that.
Okay.
Are they up yet? No? Okay.
Oh, Mary, any, oh, sorry.
No,
Did you?
I am good with what we've proposed.
I think, I mean, do you want to read them out loud? I mean, I think it's important that we note that we are trying for things like transparency in our budgeting and increasing the budget cost center so we have more, so people know what we're paying for and why, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that people know that we have a DEI subcommittee and that this year is about figuring out what that is for and looking at the data to see what we can do better. And I think it's important that people know that we do value our communication with each other and with the select board, and that we have made this initial plan to figure out how to do that work better.
I think the only thing I would add, and this is more grammatical, is if we could expand DEI, just for community understanding of what that means, and maybe just people know what it is that represents from a DEI subcommittee.
Yep.
So that would be my only,
Okay.
thought process there.
What do you mean? Just instead of the
Well-
acronym? With the,
Well, like spell it out and then put the acronym in the parentheses. So,
Oh, I see. Yep.
so people
works.
understand like what DEI stands for and what we're
Absolutely.
focusing on.
Yeah, that's not even clear. That's not even grammatical. That's just clarity.
yep.
Okay, thanks.
And I think, so people who don't know, it is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Did I get that right? I hope I got
Yes.
that
Huh?
right.
You did.
And that is just us looking at all the different groups of kids who potentially are not just your middle of the road kid, and how do we make sure that we're serving every single one of our students.
Great. So Mary, and you said nothing you,
Nope, I am good with it. Yeah.
Oh, and
okay,
just to clarify, just the DEI subcommittee, when you serve the kids that are traditionally underserved better, just to clear this up, the kids in the middle road also do better. It is good for everybody. So it's not so in case anyone's worried about that.
All the kids, including the upper level, also,
Yes.
everybody. Yeah.
Yes, everybody, when you build better structures, everybody benefits.
Right.
And that's all.
I agree. And all right, so I think in hearing no more discussion, I will make a motion that we approve our proposed goals for 2021, 2022 as written, but expanding DEI for clarity purposes. Any second?
Second.
Further discussion?
My only question is who does the expanding? Do we just do that real quick now, or does Colleen do that?
I think Colleen, hey Colleen.
Colleen, you wanna add 3 words to this?
Okay, so maybe Colleen can expand on that DEI before we post it on the website.
If I had some wording, yes.
Okay, so just the definition of a DEI, so diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, spell it out.
That's
Yeah,
all.
just spell it out.
that's all
Yeah,
that happened.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think that clears that up. Any other discussion?
And
All
I
right,
also, just one more comment. I do like the note on the bottom that about next year's goal of really trying to incorporate the staff and help them understand the process and that before we get to this point, before we get to the finished budget. I just, out of respect to them. So I'm glad that we've got that there for potential for next year.
Yeah, and I know I wasn't there for the whole conversation, but I know one of the things that got brought up was maybe even having like a teacher, like I don't know, liaison, or it's like some way that, earlier on that a staff person potentially can be part of some of the conversation, or because I think it is critical, especially we don't want surprises, right? And no one wants to feel that there's uncertainty in their role and their job, and people are making these decisions, covertly in some way that really have larger impact. So
Yeah, I'll just say that idea was Mary's, and it was great, and it does bring us closer to the thing that we keep saying we want, which is transparency. And so
Yeah.
it seems like this year we have this goal for transparency, and that's like next level. And then I look forward to what we think of for more the year after.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. And I just went back to a comment that, well, something that Lydia and I had done a couple of years ago, I guess now, of just, we happened to be at the high school and invite those teachers to come to an after school meeting. And, it was just so informational to hear from the teachers, what their concerns were and that kind of thing. So really, it led some of where we were trying to go with the budget. So to incorporate them initially is great. That's it.
mhm.
Nice.
Yeah, and also just to highlight, I know the budget sub, I was going to put this in, but since we're talking about the cost centers, I think we're actually, so we'll be sending out, Mayor and I had a follow up, but we, I think there was some confusion at one point about like how much granularity. So we're going to have some sending out the recommended cost centers and getting some feedback from school committee members, but we're on a really good path to really achieving that probably sooner rather than later. So, so I'm excited about that, and just the work that really Wayne and Brian have done to provide us with the recommendation that they feel will also still allow them to operate, but provide us also with some our ability to, oversight as well as part of our role in the school committee. So, okay. That's it for
Just a vote.
discussion. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Roll call, Mary Branley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Yes,
Natasha Rivera. Yes. All right.
we did it.
Motion carries. Goals adopted. Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to superintendent report. Brian?
Yeah, so really a lot of the stuff that I had in my report has already been talked about. A lot of the updates, the school fields, we haven't met, we have a meeting after the break, the Monday after break, so there'll be an update on that. The two things in there, one I actually is super important, one just an update on the MSBA. We had a couple of meetings this week. We had an MSBA building committee meeting where the topic of consolidation came up and where that fit or didn't fit. And with the MSBA right now, the way where we are at in the process, the consolidation of, can we take Green Meadow? Can we add on to Fowler? That conversation happened, and we're not able to do that. So then what we did move forward with, and then the conversation moved to, do we want to move forward knowing that we're looking at Green Meadow and we're looking at our campus, if you will, the high school, the Fowler School, and the Green Meadow. And the Green Meadow really looks at, is that an addition? Is that an addition renovation? Or is that a new building? And there was a unanimous vote to move forward with that process. And there will be some information coming out, I think, next week with the help of Colliers, just about why are we sort of letting go of the consolidation and moving forward with the Green Meadow site in and of itself. So there'll be a little more clarity around that. But just to let people know, there was a unanimous vote to absolutely move forward with MSBA and working with Colliers and MFG. And the next step that you'll start to hear about next week will be about visioning and what the new world of education might potentially look like, and an invite to be involved in those conversations. So that's exciting stuff.
Hey, can I have a clarifying question?
Yeah,
So you're saying, just I want to make sure I got this right. You're saying that we are definitely building a separate building.
correct.
Okay.
Well, it's either renovate or new, right? It's one or the other, but it's
or
not,
add on.
consol- right,
a
it's
separate
not,
building.
it's not no, I think it's no longer add on to Fowler, right?
Correct.
No, add on to Green Meadow. Or,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. Or,
okay.
or Green
Correct.
Meadow.
Okay. Because there was talk for a while about maybe adding on to Fowler.
It
Yep.
was,
That is off the table now. Is
It
what you're
was.
that
saying.
is off the
Okay.
table.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Unfortunately, we would have had to have a different proposal to the MSBA initially. And so, yeah, so we're off. But the one of the people from Colliers kept talking about how fortunate our students are that there is a campus, that all three schools are on the campus that we can, take advantage of, and that for different purposes. So so that was helpful.
Can I also just add, because I know this came up in FinCom, and thank you, Brian, for clarifying, was that, and I know that you won't be able to answer now, but maybe in a future conversation with Colliers, is would the possibility to add on right next to Fowler be a consideration? So so maybe not expand or add on onto Fowler, but like a building, right next to it, maybe, I don't know, in some capacity, just so it might have, if you have some, it still might allow, I guess the perception was that it still might allow for some sharing, if you have a person who just maybe it's connected by a portico, I don't know.
I offered that. I suggested that actually, to have a walkway, an inside
Yeah.
walkway between Green Meadow and Fowler.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, so if that is also, I don't know if that was also discussed and not possible, or if that is still potentially, because it's not,
It might be on our nickel. That's the only thing, but.
okay,
but yeah,
all right,
they-
but that
they
was brought up,
heard it.
and
He heard that whole collaboration piece, or they did, Colliers did, so.
okay.
The other thing is, Brian, did you want to talk about the focus groups in that? So there are 3 dates they're set, just so that you guys know, because everybody obviously will be getting invited. The 11th, it's 3 consecutive weeks. So it's the 11th of January and then the 2 consecutive weeks after that. So there'll be invitations sent out and that kind of thing too.
That'll be next week in the communication, Brian.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's for everybody, all the parents and everybody in town are welcome to
No.
come. Or is it- oh,
No,
okay.
it's,
Oh, okay.
Select.
we don't want groups of 400,
Right.
Okay. That's okay.
so it's a little more focused,
Mhm,
but
okay.
it'll encompass stakeholders from each group.
Okay, got it.
The other piece that I would like to request a vote on would be the information from CASE, which I know there was some information in the folder last week, I believe, but I didn't ask for a vote last week. I just wanted you to have time to take a look at it and review it. I think Mary asked some questions which Wayne was able to address.
Which was great.
Good.
Yeah.
So basically, the short version is they have some extra money for a variety of reasons, and they're interesting. So we, the sending district, so Maynard, we're one of the sending districts to CASE, and the superintendent, me, is on their board of their executive board. So we make up their board, but you make up the sending district school committees. There are certain things that you have to get permission to do, and this is one of those things. in terms of setting up a capital fund. Once you vote, you know, assuming that you vote yes, then it's up to the other school committee members of the sending districts to do the same. And then there's a board meeting next week where they'll have that information, and then they would be able to move forward with establishing a capital fund. And it's not, you know, they go through an audit every year, and if they have extra money, they're allowed to move it in there. It gets voted by by their executive board, which is the superintendents. How they want, if they want to take money out to spend it, again, they have to make a proposal. If their executive director makes a proposal to the board, and the board either approves or denies it or sends it back for changes and whatnot. So that would be, and I think you have all the information and the language around the motions. The one nice thing is potentially, depending on how much extra they have, they can send some back to their sending districts. It can be used to offset tuitions. So it's really a good thing for them and us and the sending districts and the CASE collaborative itself.
Brian, how many school districts are incorporated into CASE? I should probably know that.
I should too, off the top of my head.
Oh, it's
Was
I
it
can look it up.
Concord,
Definitely
Maynard,
Concord,
Maynard,
Concord, Acton,
Acton?
Maynard, Sudbury.
I don't think Sudbury. I think
Lincoln.
Sudbury is a different by chance. Is it Sudbury? I just thought that they were either,
I'm just curious as to how many people, is it Stowe? Is Stowe in there also? I'm thinking of the contiguous towns. Sorry, that would just be helpful if you, yeah, not right.
I know it's on their website because I think,
Is it?
yeah. If you go to CASE, it'll tell you what their districts are. For some reason, I think Sudbury might be except because I think they're like with Natick and out that way. But I could be, I can't remember. I haven't looked at it for a while.
It is, let's see, Acton, Boxborough, Bedford, Carlisle, Concord, Carlisle, Harvard, Lincoln, Sudbury. That's
Oh,
right.
Lincoln, Sudbury.
Okay.
Okay.
Middleton, Maynard, and Sudbury.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Oh, thank you.
Good reach.
Natasha was right. It's right on their website. It was an easy find.
I was trying to get there. You got there faster than me.
Well, I know that there's different, only reason I know, because I know there's different rates, like if you're in district versus out of
Yes.
district and you go to one of the collaboratives, from a budget perspective, I know that there's impact if you're not in the collaborative for tuition purposes.
Right, we get a
But
much
we-
better rate.
Right, but
It's
we
being
still have classes that take place in Maynard also.
We do.
Case, right? Yeah, at Fowler. I don't know if it's just at Fowler, but yeah. So.
Yeah.
all
They took one out of the high school, and they've done that at several of the districts because they own property at the Colebrook school at Colebrook, so they were able to take, I mean, this was them being fiscally responsible. They were able to move classes on site, so they didn't have to pay rent to some of those other places.
However, it means more money for us because we have to transport the kids there.
Yes,
Well, but also, yeah, you do, but I think also it's not too far compared to some of the other out of district schools, how the distance is. And the other advantage of CASE in particular is that some of their programs do allow a partial gen ed immersion. So some children, like they might be able to eat lunch, but so it's not a total out like a special ed program, which I think I thought it was kind of cool when I'd seen it. So a child may have special ed piece, but then they also might have general ed acts, for social emotional. So it could be.
yeah, they're a great program. They do
Yeah.
really, really good work.
Yeah, I know it's a great collaboration.
I have some potentially petty questions to ask. One of them is, how did they get the surplus? So the only school I've ever heard of that has a surplus.
Please, I'll have to send you Wayne's note because these are the questions that I asked him. Yes.
And it makes me think, like, does it mean we're paying them too much? Does it mean,
No.
tell me more.
Wayne, you're on.
Wayne's here.
Yeah, I know, Wayne. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, so the question is, how do they come up with a surplus?
The only school I've ever heard of with a surplus. Yeah.
I know. Maybe we'll have one someday.
Yeah.
Same answer I gave you before, fuzzy math.
Mhm.
Just kidding, just kidding.
It's a 90s throwback.
No, they don't get money like municipal school districts do, as you know, so no one gives them a pot of money. The way they charge tuition, obviously,
Right.
and having worked in a collaborative. It's kind of a nerve-wracking budgeting process because they query all of their member schools about how many students and what type they think are going to be sent to them. And then based on those students and their needs, they then determine what level of staffing that they need. So now they can come up with a number in terms of cost. And so then based on the numbers of students, they come up with a number of what they for tuition in order to reach or cover that cost. Now, because once they set it and they tell you what it is and you pay it, they can't come back to you. So business managers and executive directors have a tendency to err on the side of safety and aim a little high, you know what I'm saying? And so, so that's why sometimes you can end up with a surplus because you just can't have a shortfall. There's no town to go back to. You're kind of on your own. And so also last year, just like we had some savings as a result of the pandemic, a lot of people, particularly in the area of special education, had lower costs in terms of transportation. Sped transportation is extremely expensive. So anytime you don't do that, you can have a cost savings. So that may have contributed to why they have some savings this year. But in any given year, it's because your projections. And just like the reverse can happen, they can fall short. And that's why some people will pull from that kind of strategic reserve, if you will, to supplement their operating, but they do fall short.
Got it.
So it's a very tricky budget, and it's very nerve-wracking because they have to delay their budgeting process very late in the year because they need the municipalities to finish their budget in order to be able to tell them who they're going to send and who they're not.
Okay, well, that's very clarifying. Thank you so much. And now I have a pettier question probably, which is, I think I heard Brian say that they could potentially send some money back to the districts. And should we be asking for that, or should we, or not?
Well, that's set by statute that with less than 25%, they're not mandated to do, but the board could direct. And that's one of the things I put in my note to Mary is that anytime they go to do anything in terms of surpluses, budgets, their board has to approve all of that, just like you have to approve everything Brian and I do.
Right.
So you as a member of Maynard community have some input via Brian sitting on their board about what they do and don't do. So when they have their budget and they think they have, you know, what they need to cover their costs and whatever, they have to go to their board and get that budget approved. If there's a surplus, if it's under 25%, they can make a recommendation to their board what they want to do with that. Put it in like they want to do, put some of that in a reserve fund, send some back to the districts, or use that for next year's operating budget. If it goes over 25%, then it's mandatory that they then do a refund, if you will, of a certain amount of that back to the districts.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mary, did you have anything else?
No, it's just that thorn in my side that, you know, similar to vocational schools in that we are at their beck and call as far as what the tuitions are. We don't really have much control over what we pay. Over the past years, we've seen, not necessarily from CASE, but from other outplacement of, you know, all of a sudden we get a bill that the tuition has gone up, or, you know, quite a substantial amount, and we don't have any say in, you know, whether that's justifiable or not. So, but we're not going to solve that.
Well, the tuitions are reviewed by DESE before they are. So if I recall, a lot of these special education schools, like they set them, but DESE, they have to get DESE approval at some level for them. So you know, I know that there may not be disagreement on them or what they are, but I know that they're not always,
But to Mary's point, they can go up, say, 20% year over year.
We saw one a few years ago go up by about $100,000. Colleen, I think, was in the position at the time, and it was from one year to another. And in Maynard, that is, I mean, in any school district, that's huge, but in Maynard, boy, it basically, you know, was on the verge of breaking the bank.
Mhm.
well, all
So,
the more reason why we need to build internal capacity.
Yeah, exactly right.
So,
It's exactly
you
right.
know,
I
I
can
thank
agree.
you for highlighting why that is certainly
Yep.
needed. Spending 100,000 here and saving 400,000 sounds like a great recipe for me,
Yeah.
plus tuition. So,
Yeah. And we have done more of that in the past, so I'd like to see us go back and do more of it when plausible. So,
okay. What do you mean? Like,
well,
plausible?
sometimes we can't service the kids. So in that case, you know, they will be better served someplace else. But there are definitely times, like we talk about the Tiger program at the high school, we used to have, and it's slightly different, we used to have a connections program at the high school because where we service the special needs students from 18 to 22. So we were able to create, and at the time it was like $50,000 to create this program. And not only were we able to service our own students, but we were able to bring students in, similar to what we're talking about with CASE. So that was actually a revenue generator while doing a really great thing for our own students. So those are the types of programs that we used to have that we have sort of gone by the wayside over time. So I know Jeff and I had this conversation initially when he first started too. So I know he's working hard to try and look at that too. So that's it.
All right. So Brian, I have just two questions just to make sure these are more procedural. There's two motions that we need to approve, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a page. It looks like it requires a signature on there. And since Hillary is not here and I don't feel comfortable approving to use her signature in her absence, would it be that we would just approve my signature in her stead, or because it says representative, would that be acceptable?
That's fine. Does Colleen, you have Natasha's stamp?
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're all set because I know this is time sensitive. So,
Yeah, no, thank you.
okay, all right. So, so it'll be two motions, folks. And the first motion is I will move to approve the December 3rd, 2021 CASE Collaborative Capital Plan.
In seconds.
Further discussion?
So just to clarify from last time, it sounded very straightforward, but there is no downside to us for that, right? There's nothing that we as a school district lose if we allow them to have this plan. No, there's no like, we haven't lost like a potential to get money back, for example, because of, okay, great.
And just how I read it, it does say, I guess when maybe I should have done the motions the other way, but establishing the account, it has a limit on there on how much can be in that account as well. So I don't know, I see Wayne shaking his head. So I think maybe if it exceeds that amount, potentially that's where some other, and I haven't read the MGL that it cites, but I'm guessing it outlines in there what happens if there's too much. Maybe it does go back to sending districts. I don't know, but maybe that would be what it is.
Wayne just said
But
if it's over 25% over, right? Then there are refunds. Is that right?
No, it wouldn't go over because as they got close, the next year, if they went to put money in, they would know that they could only put X amount of dollars up to that. And in any other surplus, they would have to get the permission from the board then what to do with that. But they just absolutely would not go over.
Got it.
So they have to spend up, they have to either spend it or they caps them out for how much they can allocate in that account each year, right? So it's
Right.
only up to 500,000. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Any other further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Mary Branley,
Yes.
Natasha Rivera, yes. All right, motion carries. And the next Oh, that's the same one. The next motion is a motion to approve the establishment of a capital reserve fund in conformance with the provisions of 603 CMR 50.0710. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And discussion? All right, and Beth, this is where the 500,000 in this motion is cited.
Right.
For hopefully that's where the contingency would be. Okay, no further discussion. Roll call vote. Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Mary Branley,
Yes,
Natasha Rivera, yes. Okay, and Colleen, you have my permission to use the signature, my signature stamp where needed to send this off. Sounds good. All righty. Brian, the school field update. So I know there was a letter that was in the folder for us. Is that something that we need to, we need to do tonight? I don't know the time sensitivity. I don't know, has Lydia, I know Lydia's on here, and Hillary, and I wasn't sure if the task force, like Jay or Dan, if this is something that had been reviewed with them, that they're comfortable with this language. So I'm not sure if the school committee needs to or should be really. Can we table this to the January 6th meeting? Is this something that is time sensitive that you knew for them?
I don't know the date. I didn't see them. I know they were working on the letter.
right. Yeah, we've got a, we've got a build, school fields meeting on the 3rd because the deadline is January 6th, right, for him to get everything in. Yeah, but the letter
Yeah.
was sent, right? The school committee letter was sent of support. I think that's what Hillary said in her note.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there was, so from my understanding, and maybe correct me, that they needed to another letter. That, because I know we approved at the initial when Jay came and spoke with us, we gave our support and Lydia wrote
Right.
something, but then I think the CPC subsequently pushed back and wanted reconfirmation of some sort, but that's all I knew. I don't know anything more. I wasn't at the task force meeting to understand if this, for one, Jay had looked at this, if this actually meets the requirements. And I guess, I mean, if necessary, we could hold a 30-minute meeting,
Mhm.
when we get back, if it's just to, if that needs to be a vote or discussion a little bit further. I don't know if I feel comfortable really doing anything.
I got the impression from Jay that there were going to be a couple of questions from the CPC that the school committee was going to have to answer.
Right, so that's what they have some questions in the folder,
Right.
and but I don't have, again.
And I thought it was related to maintenance, although when I looked at his application, it said that it wasn't going to need any maintenance, with what he was requesting for the fencing and that.
Mhm.
Right, so like it says, what is the concrete maintenance plan? I don't think we have that. There's a lot of things in here that I don't think we can answer in this moment to include with the application.
Right.
Right.
What I thought I knew was that they were gonna, AVLL was gonna lay out something that was, here's our backup plan in case whatever happens in the fields doesn't happen in time or isn't enough for the CPC. Is that right, Brian? I mean, is that what you heard too? So my understanding is we had to send a letter verifying to them that yes, there is something in play right now. There is this this task force happening. We can verify that that's true. But then that's not what the letter in the folder says, so that that's where I'm lost. And it's also highlighted in spots, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and then it also says that the CPC would also like written confirmation that the school committee will enter into a grant agreement if necessary. I'm not sure about that.
What that means, expect for us especially.
Right. Yeah, because I think the part is that we're not at a, I mean, as we said before, we're not able to financially commit, right, funding here, but I think we are exploring. A task force has been set up and created to address overall maintenance plan, all of those pieces. But I don't think we can decide or state with certainty for their January deadline.
So maybe we just ask Hillary to follow back up with Jay and see what he needs from us. And then if we need to have a quick meeting, we can do that.
I think that sounds what I'm most comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I do too, because I wasn't there, so I don't want to step out and haven't been, so I will, okay. So then we will table this and have get confirmation on precisely of this letter, where, how, I don't know, Lydia can, I think she was working on it, and she wasn't, she's not here. So I just,
Yeah,
we'll
just
table
ask
it
Jay
for
what he
that week.
needs.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, let's make sure that this is what they need. And so we'll if we need to, we'll reschedule. Thank you, Mary, for
That's okay.
that. All right. Brian, does that sound okay with you? Oh, sorry, I don't have you. Oh, you were
Yes, that
minimum.
sounds
Okay.
fine. Sorry.
Okay, great. All right. All right. Well, then if that's all set, now we go into chair report, and I will tell you that is going to be pretty easy. So, parade, I know, Brian, you had this, but the parade was a huge success, a lot of fun. Nothing really to expand on except for, sorely looking forward to a break. And I know a lot of staff and students are. So I'll just say happy holidays preemptively to everybody, and enjoy every minute of that time away to decompress and recharge.
Well said.
And that's really, I'm going to just leave it at that. Okay. All right, moving on, subcommittee reports. Mary Branley, anything you want to share?
Not really. You talked about the budget subcommittee. So I think that's it. Elizabeth and I have the strategy planning next Monday, Monday afternoon. I think that's about it. We've had a couple of wellness committee meetings, subcommittee meetings, and that in preparation for our January presentation in front of the school committee. So
Charles.
Charles is here too.
Charles, you're muted if you speak.
That's it.
All right, terrific. Beth?
Yeah, same. We have a meeting on Monday for the strategy subcommittee. We saw you a week ago, so there's nothing else that's happened since then. So.
Okay. Can I ask a question about because that's the strategic planning and curriculum subcommittee, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So is there a potential for some of these literacy curriculum conversations to be incorporated there? Like, so we get the school committee, we'll get a presentation, because I feel like, that potentially might be there is a subcommittee just to get updates. I know right now there's no, but I don't know. I know we're going to get a presentation in January, but then after January, maybe that might be a better place for some regular updates to be channeled through.
That'd be great. I would like that. I think that makes sense.
But I don't know. I don't want to unilaterally say that, but I just was thinking it is curriculum, and we have a subcommittee that actually can get updates from that. So
Yeah,
might be a good path to think about.
Where I'm new, but I think that's what I'm looking for, is ways that we can do more to make sure that we're all very cohesive. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and we can think of more ways to do that work in the subcommittee as we keep going too.
Okay.
And
then
at this moment, we're just trying to figure out all of the great things that we are already doing and have been doing, and we're humble about sharing with everybody and how to keep sharing those items. So the literacy thing will be a little premature, maybe for the January, but yeah, we can definitely, I mean, it will definitely be one of our highlights.
Well, I don't even think
Yeah.
it'll be just January. I mean, I think it's just ongoing, right? Because this is going to
Right.
be like
Oh, yeah.
months,
Like everything,
year.
like our senior
exactly.
project, like so
Right,
many
right.
things that we're doing, it'll be incorporated into that.
Right. I
Right.
think it's sort of like if we get clarity in that subcommittee about what's great about what we're doing in Maynard,
Right.
then that helps. That is towards the end goal.
Yeah.
And one of those
Okay.
things should hopefully be the literacy program.
Okay. Just a thought. Sorry to
Yeah,
throw that
thank
in
you.
there.
No, thank
It's
you.
okay. It's all good.
Okay. All right. And anything else? Beth,
No,
anything? No.
that's it.
Okay. All right. And yeah, the only thing I mentioned earlier, but just the cost centers, we talked about those in our subcommittee. I think we're on a good plan, and the other accompanying piece to that would be reviewing salary scales, a policy, so that that we are, have something in place, and Brian has, information to go on, and we are empowering him within a certain, window of how to proceed as he needs to hire, non-union folks. And that will, I think, achieve what we're trying to do, where we're not at the micro level needing to vet each thing that really might not be under the school committee purview, but yet we have visibility and an expectation and some guardrails, like, okay, this is what we envision allowable in a span, and Brian can go with that as he needs for effective recruiting and budgeting and all that. So anyway, that's, I'm sure, I don't know if I framed it correctly, but that's what I thought it'd kind of help achieve a lot of the things that we've talked about in the past with transparency and all those pieces. So more to come. I'll be sending an email out about cost center discussions that we've had, and then at a future meeting, the school committee will be, expected to deliberate, and then at a subsequent one, vote on that. And Brian and Wayne can speak to their feedback on what it is. So this is all part of our couple-year-long effort that, with the transparency and budget reports, the quarterly reports that, Wayne and team have been putting together. So all of that, I think, fits nicely together. So, all right, I think that's really it. And then we going into the consent agenda. So the minutes, we have 9/7, and then we have 9/9, and I think
So initially I was thinking we shouldn't do the 9/7, but it looks like yours, and because I know you and Lydia went back and forth with a couple of things, but it was in November. So there hasn't been anything recent. So we should be okay to vote on that one.
Yeah, I think that's where why we didn't do it last time is to allow time, to
Yep.
kind of percolate some of those things. And I don't think there were anything new that was mentioned or addressed. So I know the 9/7 do have a couple more edits that I wanted, but the 9/9, I don't think I had seen any, except for some grammatical Elizabeth had. So without objection, I will move that we approve the meeting minutes from 9/9/21 for the school committee. All right, hearing no objection, minutes are approved. And then 9/7, this was just to highlight, it was on a Tuesday, so that was a little different. It wasn't on a Thursday, it was a special meeting. This was the meeting, I just added language in because Lydia did not chair this meeting. And so there was that distinction that was added into the minutes, which is not, usual protocol. So I thought it was important to reflect that. There's some other enhancements, the language about the s'mores, the links were talked about that updating links from the s'mores. I think this is when the pages were being developed regarding COVID. There was some discussion enhancements for how we were viewing we're discussing potential for a mandated vaccination, and that it would be revisited when more information was known. We have since received information about statuses regarding staffing levels and Maynard overall, which are pretty stellar. And I think that was really it. So I don't know if either one of you are okay with these edits in here. I know Lydia had one where she added mandating versus, or instead of mandated. So
Yeah.
if we're okay with these, okay.
K is edited. Yep.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we approve the 9/7 2021 meeting minutes with edits as presented.
I can second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mhm.
All right, roll call vote. Mary Branley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Natasha Rivera, yes. Okay, minutes are approved. All right, and now acceptance of warrants. So I will be abstaining from any action on warrant 22016. So for warrants 22017 and 22018, I will look to, without objection, look to accept those approved warrants.
Yep.
Okay, hearing no objection, those warrants have been accepted.
We can't
And
really
then-
do anything with 22016 because there's only two of us that will be voting. So
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's-
Colleen, can we 22016, yeah, table it to a future meeting? Thank you. Yeah, I just realized there's there's only three of us.
that's okay. That's all right.
All right, so there we go. Now we're at the end. Moving into executive session. Under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation with the Maynard Education Association and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the paraprofessional union MESA. An open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body, and the chair, in my case, the vice chair, so declares, I do so declare. The school committee will not be reconvening in open session. So roll call vote. Mary Branley,
Yes.
Elizabeth Albota,
Yes.
Tasha Rivera, yes. All right. Thank you all for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
attendance.
Night.
Thank you.